Narcissistic men are attracted to spiritual women much like moths are drawn to candles. But this attraction isn't based on love or a desire to change for the better. Instead, they seek out her inner light with the intention of extinguishing it. These men don't approach spiritual women because they admire their qualities. They approach because spiritual women threaten everything fake about them. A spiritual woman's presence isn't just beautiful, it's dangerous to the narcissist's carefully constructed illusion. She represents a walking disruption to the control they've managed to maintain over everyone else in their lives. What makes spiritual women particularly threatening to narcissists is that they cannot be easily fooled, bought, or manipulated. A spiritual woman listens beyond words and responds to energy. She senses what's authentic and what isn't. The narcissist is drawn to this light with one mission: to put it out. Not because she's weak, but because she's powerful, and that power frightens them deeply. I'm a narcissistic abuse recovery professional, and I want to explore 5 specific reasons why narcissistic men target spiritual women. Before you think, but I'm not spiritual, and I was still targeted by a narcissist, consider this. There's a strong possibility that your soul is ancient, intuitive, and deeply connected, whether you realize it or not. The abuse you experienced wasn't just psychological, it was a form of spiritual warfare. Listen carefully to what follows, and you may begin to understand not only why narcissists entered your life, but also discover the truth about who you really are. The first reason narcissistic men pursue spiritual women is because they know she will try to fill his darkness with her light. A spiritual woman doesn't just see what's on the surface. She feels what lies buried beneath the silence and the charm. She notices the flicker of pain in his eyes even when he's pretending everything is fine. She hears the tension in his voice when his words sound kind. Without being asked, she begins to pour her warmth, empathy, and intuitive love into the empty spaces within him. Her compassion starts to fill the cracks in his foundation, and for a brief moment, he feels alive again. But this feeling is only temporary. Deep down, the narcissist resents her for seeing through him. Her light makes him feel exposed. Her presence calls him to accountability. Her energy invites transformation. But that invitation feels like a threat to someone who refuses to change. Instead of rising to meet her where she is, he begins to resent her for seeing what he has carefully hidden from others. At this point, the woman who once felt like his salvation suddenly becomes his enemy, not because she changed, but because she saw him too clearly. The second reason involves a spiritual woman's ability to see potential where it may never actually exist. Spiritual women don't fall for faces, they fall for frequencies. She doesn't see him as he is in the present moment, but as who he could potentially become. She sees the wounded child who was never properly loved. She recognizes the divine spark beneath his ego. She envisions the possibility that he could be an artist, a healer, or a visionary who's hiding behind a false self, and she falls in love with that idea of him. She gives herself to the relationship, believing that if he's just loved enough, purely enough, he will awaken to his true nature. She devotes herself to that transformation, to that hope. She believes in his future self more than he does. What she doesn't understand at first is that he has no intention of becoming that version of himself. Not because he can't, but because he doesn't want to. He doesn't care about personal growth. He wants her to see the possibility, but he has no intention of rising to meet it. The attention she gives to his potential only feeds his ego, not his evolution. He becomes addicted to being admired for what he never has to actually become. She touches his soul, and instead of being humbled by that connection, he uses that intimacy to fuel his performance. The third reason narcissistic men target spiritual women is because they know she will forgive more than she should. To a spiritual woman, forgiveness isn't a tactic, it's her nature. She sees the humanity in everyone. She believes that even the most broken hearts deserve grace. She understands that narcissists are made, not born. She's familiar with trauma because she's walked through it and healed from it to some degree. She knows what it feels like to be unloved, so she refuses to withhold love from others, even when it hurts her, even when it drains her energy. She believes that if she just keeps showing up with love, eventually the pain will stop, and the real man will emerge from behind the mask. The narcissist sees this quality in her clearly. He views her forgiveness as an opening, as something to exploit. He mistakes her holiness for helplessness. While she's offering love, he's testing how far she'll bend before she breaks. Her refusal to give up on him becomes the very reason he keeps crossing boundaries. To him, forgiveness isn't sacred. It's simply a strategy to keep her emotionally hooked. The fourth reason involves the spiritual woman's gift of discernment, which the narcissist wants to weaponize against her. She isn't naive. In fact, she's often the one person in his life who can see through his persona. Her discernment is ancient. It lives in her bones. She can sense when something is off before it even happens. She picks up on the disconnect between words and energy. She knows when something doesn't align, even if she can't explain why. This terrifies the narcissist, because she's the only one who cannot be completely fooled. Instead of running away, he tries to control her perception. He subtly begins to gaslight her, making her question her instincts. He tells her she's imagining things. He laughs when she expresses what she's sensing. Over time, she begins to doubt herself. Once that doubt takes root, he starts to rewrite reality. He uses her own discernment language against her, saying things like, "You're just projecting," or "You're too sensitive," or "You're making up stories in your head." Slowly, he takes her deepest gift, her intuition, and turns it into a source of fear. If he can disconnect her from her inner voice, she becomes easier to control. The fifth reason narcissistic men are drawn to spiritual women is because she lives by spiritual values, and he counts on those values to escape consequences. There's something unshakable about a woman who walks in alignment with her principles. Her kindness isn't a performance. Her compassion doesn't run dry when things get difficult. She doesn't love out of need. She loves from a place of overflow. Even when she's hurt, she tries to act from grace. She doesn't lash out or seek revenge. She holds back when most people would explode in anger. This is where the narcissist sees his opportunity. He knows she won't expose him easily. He knows she won't punish him for his behavior. He knows that if he cries hard enough, tells a sad enough story, or disappears long enough to stir her empathy, she will let him off the hook. He uses her goodness as a hiding place because she will always try to take the higher road. She will always try to heal instead of harm. He knows that in her desire to be spiritually responsible, she will often give him passes he doesn't deserve. He takes the very traits that make her spiritually evolved and twists them into tools that protect him from judgment. In doing so, he turns her light into his shield against consequences. The secret behind narcissistic abuse against spiritual women is that it was always an attempt to separate you from your source. The narcissist wanted to make you forget who you truly are. They tried to drown your intuition in doubt, to suffocate your discernment, to shame your empathy, and to make you feel that your softness was stupidity rather than strength. But the truth is, the narcissist was drawn to you because your light disturbed something in them that they've been hiding from their entire life, and you didn't lose this spiritual battle. If you're still standing, still healing, still feeling, still listening, then your light wasn't destroyed. It was affected, yes, it was tempered, but now it's wiser, more precise, sharper than before. The next time something dark comes knocking at your door, it won't be able to get past the frequency of who you have become. Now is the time for you to fully embrace your authentic self, the person you've been since your origin. This experience, with a narcissist, though painful, has ultimately strengthened your spiritual gifts. What the narcissist intended for harm has actually refined you. Your ability to sense deception, to hold compassion without being exploited, to forgive without allowing further abuse. these are now more balanced and powerful than they were before. Your light wasn't extinguished. It was transformed into something more resilient. The narcissist came to burn you alive, but instead, you've emerged from the fire stronger and more aware. Your spiritual journey continues, not despite the narcissist's attempts to derail it, but in some ways, because of them. You now understand your own power in ways you couldn't have before. Your light remains, and it shines with an even greater purpose.